we don't really want to get too close.
It will go from being a log, yes, come out the other end as fine white copy paper.
It's also known as the tulip tree. You don't know that. Did you bring a raincoat?
They are doing wonderful things with waste. And it is a town with a story to tell.
This may well be the log of the future. Hello everyone and welcome to Series 5 of Going Bush.
Yes, the program that takes you deep into Australia's forests and explores the industry and the interests they support.
Let's have a look at what's coming up in the show.
Value adding is a catch cry in the forestry game, and nowhere more so than in the Victorian mountain ash forest. We'll follow the journey of one tree from forest floor to finished product.
We'll explore the biodiversity of Coffs Harbour, where tropical and temperate forests meet.
And that's not how they did it in my day, the massive improvements in bush safety. Yeah, plenty to get through on the program today, and we begin here in the Victorian Central Highlands, Andrew, standing next to a 75-year-old mountain ash.
She's magnificent, Nick, and this is the story of native forestry, but it's more than that. It's the story of this one tree. In Victoria, just about all the ash harvesting takes place in what's known as 39 regrowth, trees that sprouted in the wake of a massive wildfire in 1939. For our tree, though, the end doesn't come by way of fire, but mechanical harvester, and it's quite something to see.
After felling, the tree is picked up by the skidder and taken to the landing for the first stage of processing. One of the benefits of harvesting these relatively young trees is the fact they're fairly rot-free, giving a potentially higher yield of sawlogs.
So, Jared, now that our mountain ash is at the landing, the processing begins, the decision-making. Bits of this log are going to go their separate ways, aren't they?
That's correct, Andrew. The end of the log here, this is the high-end saw log. You can see it's nice and clean. This is going to go into sawlog products such as flooring and furniture.
OK. As we move further down?
As we move further down, we get into a lower-end sawlog product. This is going to go into structural timbers.
OK, yep. And then the very tip?
The very tip, it's got the most defect in it. We can't take sawlog out of it, so it goes into pulpwood. This is a product that normally it'd be left on the forest floor. It's a byproduct from taking high-end sawlog.
Each log is graded based on its characteristics. This determines which customer gets which part of the tree and ensures that the whole tree is used.
The butt of it's clean, and it's nice and straight. There's not so many limbs, so it looks like we'll get a 11 metre length out of it. So I run the tape out down to 11. Make sure there's no limbs where we're cutting, and we'll cut it off.
Once it's graded, the two sections of sawlog from our tree get loaded on a truck heading for the mill in Hayfield, 50 kilometres from the harvest site.
Where the beautiful base of our big mountain ash comes to, guys, the very best of it comes to a sawmill like this, where it gets firstly chopped in half and then chopped into all other sorts of bits and pieces.
The middle bit will also be sawed up, Andrew, but that'll go into things which are more sort of merchant grade, maybe housing frames or pallets or something like that.
At every stage of the process, more and more effort is being applied to getting maximum value from our tree. The clean, clear cuts of timber take care of themselves, but ingenuity is required to up the value of the offcuts.
Even with the low-value timber, we'll endeavour to maximise that through further processing. An example of that is the shed we're in at the moment, the finger joining laminating line. We'll take small, short, narrow pieces of low-grade timber, we'll finger joint them, and then we'll laminate them together, and we'll create long, wide pieces of timber that compete with imported products.
In this mill, even the Welcome back to Going Bush. So far on the program, we've followed the progress of one tree from Victoria's mountain ash forests through harvest, milling and finally into solid timber furniture. But not all of the tree is suitable for sawlog. For the small diameter spindly top section, it's a different but no less important journey.
Not all the timber that comes out of that tree, Nick, is your glamour timber.
Not every stick, Andrew, can be a Stradivarius.
No.
That load going on there is headed for the mill, which will turn into a product that everybody uses. It's loaded on the truck for the short trip down the road to one of Australia's biggest paper-making facilities, Australian Paper at Maryvale.
All right, so from the bush, Nick, our log, the top section of which ends up here with a whole heap of other mountain ash.
At Australian Paper, Andrew,
Yes.
Maryvale, and it is about to embark on an extraordinary journey. In
Yes,
300 metres, it will go from being a log, come out the other end as fine white copy paper.
Although almost 2/3 of the wood processed here is plantation grown, Australian Paper also processes low-grade material from managed state forests through chip mill, pulp mill and finally paper machine. The top section of our tree, which has unique characteristics important for making office paper, will pass to become Australian-made, sustainably certified high-quality paper.
From the tree that you would have seen harvested, it's anything that could make a sawlog would have been made a sawlog, and it's normally the top end, the smaller, where there are lots of branches and lots of potential defect for a sawlog. We can take in, we can make good use of that. So from that, it'll come through the wade ridge behind us here, through to our site here, and really within 7 days it could be from a tree to photocopy paper.
And the value adding goes further. Sawdusts and pulp residues are used to fire boilers to create electricity. Australian Paper is in fact Victoria's largest industrial generator of electricity. It's the story of modern forestry, where nothing goes to waste.
So while there's plenty of scope for growth on the demand side of things, the fact that Vic Ash is a native-grown species from tightly managed state forests means that supply isn't likely to increase, and that in turn will drive further value adding.
I think that's being forced on the industry somewhat by the resource situation. But look, the sawmillers and the producers and manufacturers are very proactive, and they're looking at ways of converting probably a lower grade log that might have gone into framing previously into value-added product down the track.
So in the past, about 1/3 of our timber went into fairly low value application. This is generally around the quality of the resource, things like palings and pallets. About 1/3 of it went into structural timber, fairly easy to produce. Simply dry the timber, cut it into the sections you need, has good strength, and about 1/3 of the timber into appearance grade products, so flooring and furniture. But I definitely think over the next sort of 12 months, 18 months, we're going to see a big shift of that structural hardwood timber into those higher value appearance products.
The other point that needs to be remembered is that after harvest, forests are naturally regenerated, flourishing in the landscape and providing biodiversity for the next generation.
The regeneration story is really replacing the forests that we've harvested. So what we want to do is hand back those forests for future generations to make decisions about. So we're able to reap the benefits of natural timber products coming off our coop, but we need to do the right thing by replenishing those areas that have been harvested.
So increasingly every part of our one tree from Victoria's ash forests is a valued commodity. The best of the best is sawn to become furniture and floors. Next best becomes structural and framing timber, with the remainder destined for the photocopy machine as Australian-made fine white copy paper.
Even the sawdust is used to fire boilers and generate electricity. It's the story of modern forestry where nothing goes to waste.
After the break, it's off to Coffs Harbour, where temperate and tropical worlds collide.
And still to come, the changing face of safety in the bush. But first, through each episode of Going Bush, we're giving you the chance to win a prize pack full of goodies, and at the end of the series you could win a fantastic major prize thanks to Forestry Tasmania and Innkeepers.
Each week, 10 lucky winners will receive a prize pack, encouraging you to get out there and enjoy our forests. And at the end of the series, one lucky winner will win the ultimate Tasmanian adventure holiday, including family passes to all of Forestry Tasmania's adventure forest sites and accommodation at Innkeepers Properties, Quest Launceston, Tall Timbers and Quest Trinity House, as well as the new Airwalk Lodge.
All you need to do is correctly enter each week's code word at the website goingbush.tv, and you could win. This week's forest code word is
The winner will be announced through Forestry Tasmania's e-newsletter branch line and on the Forestry Tasmania website. Good luck.
Welcome back to Going Bush. Not coming to you today from Middle Earth, but from northeast New South Wales, where there's a very unique forest industry, because this is where the tropics meet the temperate. It's where life flourishes.
Northeastern New South Wales is one of the most biodiverse areas in all of the country, with eucalypt forest and rainforest all sharing the landscape. It's little wonder so much attention needs to be given to the environment.
It's a great place to work. It's one of the most biodiverse places on the east coast of Australia. It's a collision of worlds where the subtropical north meets the temperate south, and as well as off the coast, on the coast, you have that mixing of the plants and animals and the features that go with it.
Before any harvesting takes place, teams of ecologists are on the ground searching for information. And with over 300 endangered plants and animals in the area, there's plenty to look for, making forestry in the area a complex business.
We have a very rigorous licensing system that we work underneath, and we have to meet some very stringent rules, and that means a wide range of surveys across a wide range of areas.
In managing the production forests up here, the environment is imperative. You know, we put a lot of effort, and half of our staff are devoted to environmental aspects. So annually we find upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 threatened animals, and over 10,000 threatened plant species in our region that we incorporate into our harvesting plans, and hence the harvesting operation. So they're protected during the harvesting event.
Some of the species which ecologists are looking for include koalas, different kinds of frogs, small mammals such as the Hastings River mouse, and even rare and endangered bats.
Now, part of that survey is for bats of all things, which surprises me, Brian, and this is the bat trap, mate. How does it work?
Yeah, this is the bat trap. It's a harp trap. It looks a bit like a harp, got the strings there.
Yeah, so it's got a fishing line here.
That's right, and the bats fly along these flyways, and if you've set it right, they'll hit that, fall into the bag, and tomorrow morning we'll come and check it and see what we've got.
Okay, well, we'll let the bats come out and do their thing, and we'll come back in the morning. They're not vampire bats, are they?
No, hopefully not in Australia.
All right, well, the sun's come up and we have got bats like you promised, and it's not the fearsome, blood-sucking thing I was expecting. What is this little fella?
This little fella is a little forest bat, reasonably common around here. And yeah, we've got a bat-full trap of them. We
have indeed. Now, why are you surveying bats? What's the point?
2 points. One is to look for the more rare bats that are around, so we can manage them correctly and put in the protection measures that are required, and also it's a bit of a measure of the forest health.
Now, I can't pat him, can I, because I haven't had my rabies shot?
That's right, you don't really want to get too close.
No, I'll go.
Once the survey in the forest is done, planners back in the office work with the information to devise specific rules about which areas can and can't be harvested.
It's extremely complicated, and our harvesting contractors are very specialised and skilled in what they do. They're not only considering their machines, the log products that they're producing, they've also got to consider the environmental aspects and where they can and can't go, and all the rules associated with that.
The forests around the area are all multi-age because they have been harvested continuously for more than 100 years. The products that come out of them are mostly high-end, things like poles, bridge girders, veneers and appearance-grade saw logs. And in New South Wales, native forests are harvested selectively and not clear-felled.
So Justin, we've got a couple of nice blackbutt poles there. What would they be used for?
Yeah, well, these are telegraph poles, Craig. And we've got a 12-metre pole here and then a 14-metre pole. We've got a little bit of shadow here, which may be an issue, but that should be able to get trimmed out. And I guess with poles, what you're looking for is a good straight tree and just having that quality and minimal defect running along so it doesn't fail when it's in the ground as a telegraph pole.
Commercially, our customers are telling us they handle up to 29 different species just from the local forests. Now that's difficult for them to market actually, given that they have to find a marketing angle, and a lot of them sell their products by species. They actually sell it as a blackbutt or a spotted gum because that's what people want.
We're working with the forest and understanding the ecology of the forest to get natural regeneration. We're not planting, we're just letting nature do it, and we're maintaining the forest as it is for future generations.
The other thing to bear in mind about these beautiful forests in northeast New South Wales is they're free to everyone to come and use. This is the latest edition, it's brand new. It's Sealy Lookout, giving you a beautiful vista of Coffs Harbour.
The northeastern New South Wales region is one of 4 native forestry regions in the state and comprises more than 500,000 hectares of native forest and over 300 threatened fauna and flora species.
A majority of that forest has been harvested for more than 100 years, with Forests New South Wales leaving habitat and protection buffers for any endangered species its ecologists find. Forests in the area are multi-use, with events including the World Rally Championship visiting the area and are free for anyone to enjoy.
Now, coming up after the break, a trip down memory lane that will make your OH&S supervisor quake in fright.
Time to talk safety in the bush, Nick. And back in ye olde days, forestry was one of the most deadly industries you could work in.
Look, Andrew, you had big trees, you had blokes swinging chainsaws and things falling out of the sky, but in the last sort of 30 or 40 years, a massive amount of energy has been put into making it a safer environment to work in.
It has, and it's not just about hard hats and fluoro vests.
This is how forestry of yesteryear was done. Men in the bush trying to avoid all sorts of different ways they could be injured or killed. Falling and manhandling massive trees, a daily but deadly occupation.
Dick the loader gets a free lift to the top. Every day is Luna Park for Dick.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the changes. I mean, when I started, we had a terry towel and that, a pair of soft-toed boots, and we just had to get logs. That was it.
Here comes another whopper.
In the bush today, though, it's a very different story, with some harvesting operations requiring no men on the ground, just safely in their machines, but still in awe of how the old bushmen used to do it.
It is something that you think about. Yeah, we often come through old stumps and things like that you can nearly park a machine this size on, and you often wonder how they brought them to the ground and the dangers that used to be involved in logging, but in the plantation-based stuff now with these machines, it's a world of difference.
So, Ray, you've been in the bush 48 years, mate, and I guess they didn't have machines like this back then?
No, there was a track loader and a skidder, and that was it.
So, I mean, today we've got no one on the ground, have we?
No, not even a chainsaw on this job. No one has a chainsaw here.
So it's a forestry job without a chainsaw?
It is. Brilliant.
Very, very safe.
Back in about 82, I think we had three men killed in 4 working days, and 2 of them was on sites that I was supervisor on, and yeah, it's affected me. That's why I'm still in safety, I suppose. So, yeah, pretty tough times at that time.
Safety in the forest is evolving all of the time and is now one of the big issues that all forest workers have at the forefront of their minds.
For my personal opinion, and the colleagues that I work with here on this job, it's of utmost importance. Everyone wants to go home of an evening and be able to do things that you choose to do on the weekends and in your free time.
Companies such as Forestry Tasmania are ready to recognise contractors who do all they can to keep safe. Perotti Contracting recently awarded for an outstanding safety record. It's actually quite a sophisticated way of measuring safety performance in the bush, and that is the amount of time lost per million man-hours worked.
1 million man-hours?
Yeah.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I wonder how they'd measure your productivity and output. I wonder how many man-hours that would be.
Safety's not a joke.
No. 1 hour a week.
Even as early as sort of 3 years back, our lost time injury rate per million man-hours was in excess of 17, almost 18. For the last financial year, we achieved a figure of 6.9 lost time injuries per million man-hours. This current year, we're running at just in excess of 3, so it's just a phenomenal result.
To cut injury rates, it's important a new generation of foresters come through with the right training.
One thing I do like about having young blokes on the job, it makes everyone conscious of safety, because you're doing it all the time, you take it for granted. But when you've got someone new, you know that things you know they don't.
Forestry Tasmania is proactive about its safety message, spending plenty of time on the ground with the state's forest contractors, each of which is required to write out a safety management plan. The message seems to be working, with the number of days lost because of injury per million man-hours being slashed by half to just over 7.37 in 2009-10 and is currently at just 6.9.
No doubt the bush is a lot safer place to work nowadays, but there's still more to do.
Not for us, Andrew. That is the end of our program. Thanks very much for watching. And before we leave you, here's a look at what's coming up next time. We go on the hunt for one of Australia's most enigmatic forest dwellers, the long-footed potteroo, and explore some of the innovative ideas that will shape our timber markets in the not-so-distant future.